Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to NTV's weekly celebrity talk show, Talking Point. I'm your host, Niaz Ahmed. Viewers, today in our studios we have got a person who has worked a lot towards one of the fabrics that is so close to our heart, particularly in Bangladesh. It is muslin and its close sister, jamdani. Rifat Wahhab is a Londoner, though she was born in Bangladesh, but she says, because I was born in Bangladesh, it has shaped who I am. Well, we'll talk to her about jamdani. She is chairman of the Muslin Trust, and she has worked on the muslin and jamdani products and how they have evolved through the ages and their designs. Welcome to the show, Rifat. How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you very much for making time for us and coming along and taking a half day off from your work.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Not at all. You have a degree in management, you have a degree in librarianship, you have a diploma, postgraduate diploma in women's studies, and you have another postgraduate diploma in management studies. Quite a lot on your plate, academic. And then currently you are the chairperson of the Muslin Trust, which was set up to uplift and sustain Bangladeshi heritage. You have been company secretary for Consortium of Bengali Associations for 12 years. Mm-hmm. It was probably an umbrella organization.
Yes.
You have also been with the Asha Center and Abe Community Association. You are the driving force and founder of the Muslin Trust, which is a charity working to preserve and promote Bangladeshi heritage fabrics. It's been a long walk, a long journey from your earlier degree in librarianship. See, what has compelled you decided, what made you decided, or what forced you, or what led you towards this very varied journey in different areas?
The degree in librarianship was an eye-opener in my life, because
it was your first degree.
My first degree
in London.
In London, and it exposed me to areas of knowledge I wouldn't have otherwise discovered.
Right.
And one of the most important areas of knowledge was, it was 1976 when I started to do my degree, and my lecturers were talking about the universe of knowledge has changed, which means that we can't have one individual knowing everything.
True.
And we're on the verge of a revolution. And the revolution is that there will be no longer one knowledge holder,
right,
but a variety.
Right.
And that stayed with me all my life.
That's what the teachers were those days said, that they are the managers of knowledge and not the fountain of knowledge.
Managers of knowledge, yes, yes, that's true. And you could say it stays in libraries, but you could make it bigger than that, is that all around the world you'll see people who hold amazing knowledge, but they need to work with others to complete the knowledge.
True, true.
So that was perhaps the best thing I learned in my degree. Is, of course, the libraries and the librarianship, but what is knowledge and who holds it?
Probably that's in the scheme of things of nature, that no one is perfect, and one person or one person's knowledge complements another person's knowledge, and then they can go ahead, and it needs the whole society, the whole company, the whole association. And that's why you have started this wonderful project of Muslin Trust, not just on your own, but you have a group of people, very able people who are with you, and you are carrying on this wonderful, wonderful project, and which we will talk about a lot later in this program. What is muslin? What is I know that it dates back to Mosul in Iraq, and that's how it worked, because it was manufactured there. But how did it come to India, and particularly Bangladesh, and a particular area in Bangladesh, you see? Because I believe that I've lived part of my life in the Middle East, and the weather can be very harsh and not as bracing as that in Dhaka.
It's a good question, because what is muslin is a good question, because there are a variety of muslins around the world. And in Bangladesh and around, especially Sonargaon,
The ancient capital of Dhaka.
Yes.
Oh, Bangladesh, sorry.
Bangladesh. And it was noted that we had at least 14 types of muslin. And one of them was jamdani. Muslin is the product of a very specific cotton seed.
It's a very refined product.
It's the finest. But which seed it was at the moment is the mystery, because there's possibly 3 seeds that actually produce that fine muslin. And one of the purposes of the Muslin Trust is to find out which seed was it that actually produced the finest muslin. Because all around the world you will have different varieties of cotton, which could produce types of muslin, but the finest muslin, we need to find out which seed was it.
So the juries are still out.
Jury's out. We have to investigate it. Yes, yes.
That's very interesting. See, what is your vision? I mean, what do you really want to do with? I mean, I know promote, protect, and preserve the muslin from being lost again. See, it was kind of lost for several decades, maybe. But people have been working on it, and particularly people around Dhaka, where jamdani and jamdani saris and jamdani products are produced and sold well over. See, but how can we really protect in this age when we are competing against manufactured products and which are much cheaper?
True. 2 things. We can protect jamdani straight away, because jamdani is woven out of cotton, which is available. And so that's one task. But the vision for the Muslin Trust is not only to protect and enhance jamdani so it stays alive and wanted. The other side is to research into muslin. Jamdani is the inheritor of muslin, because there was something called flowered muslins, which could be described as jamdani today.
Right.
Now today we've got beautiful jamdanis being woven very expertly by the weavers in Sonargaon and other parts of Bangladesh. But we need to resuscitate, find the original seed to weave jamdani in the muslin way, or just to resuscitate the seed that produced the muslin.
So jamdani is a kind of cotton.
Yeah.
It's a kind of muslin.
Yes, yes, it is.
But is it just the design, the motifs that determine jamdani, or something else?
That's a good question. The jamdani is the weaving, is the technique of weaving, because you can just weave a piece of a cloth. But the genius of the weavers is that they can actually weave in the designs, the traditional emblems of jamdani while they're weaving through this shuttle system.
Right.
That's the genius. And when you watch the weavers, they haven't got a design. They haven't got a manual next to them. It's been passed on through the generations. And it's just magical watching them produce this beautiful interwoven jamdani, which is unique.
Yeah, I have had occasions of visiting some of the handlooms around Dhaka, and I see them. I mean, they would say that I do not know, this is a design that comes to my mind, and we just go ahead. See,
that's possible.
But going back to jamdani, jamdani, I think I read somewhere the jamdani is a combination of 2 Persian words like jam, which I understand has other meanings too, but it means there flower, and dani is a container or decanter. See, so it was really flower was. See, so the motif of flowers were introduced in the jamdani, and that was the jamdani, see, like my tie. Well, it's not jamdani, but that kind of motif.
Jam, it's the floral part,
Yes.
And it indicates how old the fabric is, because it was witnessed centuries and centuries and centuries ago. And you could say that the Greek people also witnessed it. They called it the famous fabric spun out of woven air. Italian.
Because it was so fine.
It was so fine. It was the woven air. So that was Alexander the Great's time. But there's evidence from research even before then. People witnessed this fine muslin being woven in this part of the world, which is now Bangladesh. So it's interesting. The origins is Persian, because that links to the Mughal Empire, because of how the Persians and the Mughals came to Bangladesh.
Right. A very simple question. How were you attracted to this whole idea of protecting the muslin and this highly prized fabric tradition?
I went to a course. It was run by Stephanie Community Trust, and it was a brilliantly run course because it involved going to lectures about muslin. And before then, I already heard that maybe the muslin seed has been lost forever. I went to another talk, and that idea devastated me. I said, is it really lost? And people can't say to me, it is lost, but they think it's lost. So the research part of me thinks,
Did it take you to Dhaka?
yeah, I went to Dhaka and I saw the weaving, but the part of me that's done the research thinks we have to establish once and for all, is it really lost? If it's not, can it be resuscitated? Which is my thing, because if it can be resuscitated, can you imagine reviving muslin through the
Did
seeds?
you find receptive people in Dhaka when you
Yeah.
visited?
Yeah, yeah. Anybody who wants to preserve heritage and promote and then take it further and produce it again would be interested in this.
Do they have any body like this Muslin Trust in Dhaka to prevent the decadence?
There's a Bangladesh Cotton Board, and we're trying to link up with them. There's also industry leaders, people like Bibi Russell and Ruby Ghaznavi, who we work closely with, who advise us. And I'm reassured by all these ladies and more that Bangladesh would be receptive to this idea.
Well, not many weeks ago, Bibi Russell was sitting
I
on
know.
the same chair
Yeah.
that you are sitting. And we are almost near the end of our first segment. So when we come back, we'll continue this discussion about muslin and the Muslin Trust and the good work that you and your colleagues are doing. And I understand that you have also produced a book. It's a part of a book that you were also responsible for and some of the design. So we'll take a break now.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll talk about it. Thank you for being with us. We'll take a commercial break and we'll come back. Don't go away. See you soon. Welcome back. Before we went on our commercial break, we were talking to Rifat Wahhab, the chairperson of Muslin Trust, about how to protect, preserve, and promote this very wonderful fabric that has been handed down to us by through generations by master craftsmen. Rifat, as a part of the project of this book, Bengal to Britain, you traveled to Dhaka and you were responsible for producing a dress that was your design. Could we have a look at the dress, please? This is the dress produced by our guest today. And can you say something about this?
It's based on a historical design, and it's special to me because I wanted to reproduce a dress that was used in Jane Austen's literature. I just absolutely adore her literature. And her heroines always used to have some connection to muslin dresses. So I wanted to relate it to her period, and this was a dress of that period. And I was helped enormously by historical costumiers who showed me how to use historical sewing techniques to reproduce a dress of that kind. This dress has not been near a machine. It's been hand woven and hand sewn. So it's very special.
Well, what is the fabric?
Cotton.
Cotton.
It cannot be muslin because we've lost muslin temporarily.
This cotton is from Dhaka?
It is. It's from Dhaka, and the material, the design I chose from a V&A catalogue because the design goes back, the motif goes back to 1850.
V&A is Victorian Albert.
Yeah, sorry. And they have some muslin and jamdani collection, and I had the privilege of seeing that. And I chose that simple red and white motif for my dress. And the design goes back to 1850. So I chose that design, and Mohammed Ahmedullah, who was coordinating that project, took all our choices and had them hand replicated and woven in Bangladesh in the same weaving villages that used to weave muslin. It was wonderfully reproduced by the weavers.
Right. And how much would it sell for?
Jamdani itself sells at different prices. I wouldn't say this one is particularly
If it were commercially produced, how would it?
The dress or the...
The dress, yes.
I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't want to part with it. That's the whole thing.
Yes, that's the wonderful feeling. See,
yeah.
That I don't want to part with it. It's part of my good work, and it should live on, and it might become part of a museum.
I don't mind that for educational purposes.
Okay, okay. And the book, Bengal to Britain, maybe share it with our viewers. This is a book that was part of the project Muslin Trust, and Rifat Wahhab is one of the co-authors.
Yeah.
Yes, can we frame this, please? The book, and not our guest. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. The other book is by...
this is Dr. Sonia Ashmore, and it's published by Victoria and Albert.
This is a book
the other side.
on muslin.
Yeah.
And it's written by one of our colleagues who is working with Rifat as part of one of the teams of Muslin Trust.
Yeah, she's a trustee.
She's a trustee too.
Sonia, sorry.
Can we frame this book here? Great. Right, thank you.
Let me say a few words about Dr. Ashmore.
Yep,
she's
sure.
done a fantastic project. She's actually, it sounds very simple, but it's very complicated. She's folded all of the Victoria and Albert Museum's muslin collection. So now it's together in the Earl's Court place. And our view is that we should organize as many trips to see the muslin collection, because it is something to be seen. It's life-changing.
It's now placed in
Earl's Court.
Victoria.
Yeah, it
Earl's
used
Court.
to be in the...
What's the name of the museum?
It's still Victoria and Albert, and it's in Earl's Court.
It's a different location.
It's just a different location, yeah. It's better conditions there to preserve.
Okay.
So one of the things we want to do in Muslin Trust is to educate people.
Yeah.
And I could talk forever about muslin, but it's nothing unless you see and possibly touch muslin that you actually see what the fuss is about.
You know, this mythical thing about that hundreds of yards could you pass through a ring, see? And during our visits to Jaipur, we visited a place, and the salesman was trying to sell to somebody, and he said that it can pass through a ring, and I took off the ring from my fingers and I gave it to him. And he showed it to me that, yes, very fine cotton.
Yes.
I think it was chiffon or silk or cotton, I don't remember, but it just passed through the rings. Yards and yards, and maybe 25, 30 yards, you see. So it's possible that the very fine muslin that was produced in Dhaka during the Mughal days did cause a bit of embarrassment at the royal court, I understand.
Oh, you're right, you're right. Aurangzeb's, Mughal Aurangzeb's daughter put on 7 layers of muslin because it was only sold to Mughal emperors, and it's a fine fabric. But with 7 layers, she was asked to return to her room because it was too transparent.
He was a very pious person anyway.
Yeah, and he was as well. But can you imagine how fine that would have been with 7 layers? It was still transparent.
Is that kind of quality of muslin still preserved somewhere in some of the museums?
Yeah. In fact, that's one of the things we want to do. We know that the Victoria and Albert Museum has a fine collection of muslin. We understand around the world there are good collections. And on top of that, we think there are families in Bangladesh who may have private collections. So we need to just locate where is muslin today preserved. And
there were some specimens in Balda Gardens in Dhaka, but they may have been destroyed during the war.
Oh.
They may have been.
There's a lot of stories about muslin has, yes, in 71 and uprisings, famine, it goes, which is a sad thing, but I believe that some families have them. And I also believe that we can resuscitate the seed.
Yep, yep. That will be very good. That will be a very good and work and something that you will be doing for the future generations, because if that seed can be found and we could have the same kind of muslin quality of muslin. But the point is that isn't it the weaving rather than the seed itself?
It's both, because the weaving is definitely, the weaving has its own challenges because you need to weave to a very high count. So we need to train the weavers to increase the count from say 80 to 120. But the other part of it is the environment that weaves.
Yes.
And everything is there. I mean, what the weaving of muslin involved.
It needs a particular kind of geography, isn't it?
It is. The waters of Sonargaon, the waters of the rivers actually help the quality. We use local environments. So we use the teeth of the boalmat. We use the skin of the kultimat.
Yes.
We use tamarind wood as a part of preparing it. So the environment is there. The looms are there.
Yes.
The weavers are there. They just need to be helped to increase it. Now, we really hope and we pray that we can find the seed.
Is it true that the weavers in old days, when the British were there and as the colonial forces, that they did not allow weavers, muslin weavers, to continue working because obviously the ruling forces, they have their own agenda and politics, and they found a good market, consumer market, so they wanted to flaunt their own products, mechanically produced, industrially produced, and they were cheaper, It's the rumors that as a precaution that the weavers would not continue with their trade, some of their fingers were chopped off. In your research, have you found it to be true, or just a misconception or rumor, or what?
It's a good story. I mean, it's a very good story because it indicates, it fires the imagination that we protested and we wouldn't sell our trade to anybody else. It's a myth. It is a myth. But what is true is that the decline of muslin happened because ultimately in the West the fashion went out, the demand went down, and the sustainability went down. And so with it, how often can you grow a crop that's no longer, the product is no longer desired?
Commercially viable, yes.
And that's sadly is more truth than the cutting of the fingers. There's no evidence. There has been research. But
even now, a lot of farmers in Bangladesh, particularly in the north, they would go for tobacco rather than anything else because tobacco pays more.
It does pay more. And one of the challenges and one of the things we really do want to do is to increase the payment of the weavers. And Bibi Russell was here. She knows and we know how underpaid and how underpaid they are, but how talented they are. It'll be the sorriest thing to see them go. And my understanding, they don't want to go either, but we need to sustain a livelihood for them. And so there's an economic challenge in there.
Well, the muslin may be facing hard times, but I understand jamdani is doing very well.
And so should. Yeah, it deserves to be. It's one of the finest materials in the earth. And we're not the only ones who love jamdani. I understand from one of our advisors, Ruby Ghaznavi, Japanese are very fond of high-end jamdani, which is good. Britain once in a while falls in love with jamdani, asks for it, and then falls for other fabrics. So it needs to be promoted much more than it is at the moment.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is it being profitably marketed?
It's only for Bangladesh to answer. There seems to be a demand for affordable jamdanis, which is not bad. But the demand for the high-end jamdanis, the ones that take 6 months to make, is low, which is understandable.
It's like weaving carpet, isn't it?
It's a fine art. But I'd like to think that we will actually have demand for that as well, because the middle jamdani can survive. I think it's be fair to say Bangladeshi women do love wearing jamdanis. But
we're talking about saris.
Yeah. And maybe the future is also...
Jamdani as a material.
Yeah, as the material that's been made into a shari. Now, part of that is that maybe the future of jamdani...
Okay, Rifat, we have to take another commercial break, and then when we come back, we'll continue with our interesting discussion. Thank you, viewers, for being with us. Don't go away. We'll come back after this break. Thank you.
সৌজন্যে মাহবুবেন
Back. Welcome back. You are with us at NTV watching Talking Point. Our guest today is Rifat Wahhab, and we have been talking about muslin and jamdani. We are also talking about shared heritage. What are your views on that, Rifat?
It's a very important idea because it's very much of today's idea about what is shared heritage, because jamdani is a shared heritage, muslin is a shared heritage. It's shared because we brought the fabric to this country,
Right.
and we share this history, that its emperors, its princesses wore it. It's women and men of importance wore it. So we've connected with this society through muslin. We brought it from Bangladesh, and we dressed the emperors, not only from England. Marie Antoinette wore it. Jane Austen's heroines wore it. It's the fabric of decency, of culture. It's not a glamorous...
Of opulence, of affluence, and the higher society.
High society, but it's always been connected to good taste. In fact, if you look at Jane Austen's character, the use of muslin is very interesting because good women of Jane Austen's literature wore muslin. And muslin therefore becomes associated with good taste. And her good women were never opulent or rich, but integrally good.
Yes, but they're not from working class. But
No, no. And unfortunately, muslin was never shared with poorer communities. It has always been the fabric.
nothing would be if it was imported from
No, why should it? Yes.
such a distance.
No, and that is the shared histories, because there's our fabric from Bangladesh being used in the literature. Even in Whistler's paintings, he's got women wearing muslin, as well as Princess Charlotte and the kings and queens and Marie Antoinette.
Yeah, but we are talking about fiction, isn't it?
And fact, so that we know that Princess Charlotte loved muslin. We know that Marie Antoinette influenced both her own French circles as well as English women's circles to wear muslin. That's historically connected. But I think it's nice that it appears in literature, good literature as well.
Yes. I think the French also have a word for muslin.
Mousseline, isn't it?
Yes, something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, you see, and like all of the loan words that travel from one country to another language, you see, they keep changing the shades of meanings change, the pronunciation changes, like from makhzan to magazine, see.
Yes.
Makhzan is like a treasure house, and magazine from magazino to magazine, and she said now magazine can be a book containing so many different kinds of articles or essays, and also a magazine of bullets, a chamber of bullets for guns or pistols.
Interesting.
Now, how do you distinguish between a jamdani and a muslin?
Jamdani today is woven out of a cotton seed.
Right.
It could be, it's an ordinary cotton seed. Muslin was woven out of a specific cotton seed, and it could be one of 3 cotton seeds that's been identified. And we need to establish which one was it. There's a possibility of a thing called gossypium, arboreum, herbaceum, and neglectum. I hope I've done Sonia justice on these 3. But it was one of those 3 seeds that produced, when spun, produced the finest muslin. Now, the 2 are interlinked, because then muslin became most famous when it was the flowered muslin, which is jamdani. There's the relationship.
So muslin on its own has no designs, it's just plain cloth.
You can have plain muslins, and there's about 12 types that,
Yes,
you know, called Ali Bala, and all of those, all different, Malmal Kush, all of those.
Yes, that word that you just used, malmal, it's used all over India, in the subcontinent, malmal.
Malmal. So there's one type of muslin, but the fuss about jamdani is that when it was muslin, it was the finest. And in, say, the 1851 Great Exhibition, the British went mad for flowered muslin, only for a short time, but they saw the beauty of muslin using the jamdani technique and the flowered muslin. And so that is the finest of all the muslins. And so I hope I've made, today you've got cotton, but its finest was the seed from muslin.
Well, we may not revive that old quality of muslin until the seed is discovered.
Yeah.
But the jamdani that we have today with us is produced in good quality and good quantity.
Yep.
But to make it really popular, and if you want to make something really popular, you have got to bring down the price and produce it on a massive scale. So is Muslin Trust working towards that? Are the producers, big producers of jamdani saris in Dhaka, around Dhaka, are they really working towards that? Or is jamdani still a prized possession or very highly priced?
It should always remain a special place. Whether it should be expensive, I'll leave it to the producers. But I think one of the things that's happening today is that to preserve jamdani, to keep it going, people are using jamdani to create modern designs. And I think that's really exciting because it's saying you don't have to wear the shari to wear jamdani.
True.
And I'm aware of a young student in London who's just produced a whole fashion collection
Right.
using jamdani, and I'm dying to see it. And in Dhaka, I see women wearing tunics made out of jamdani fabric. So it's modernizing it, keeping it going. I hope all the time we'll always want to wear jamdani shari. I think that should be special.
But somehow jamdani seems to be for females rather than the males, is it?
I haven't seen many men wearing jamdani.
No.
And I don't know why, but it's...
Is it because of the floral design? Is it because of the intricate design and the colorful designs? Or is
It's that, but you've actually said something that actually makes me think that why don't we, if we made it less decorative, and it's possible, because you can weave anything into a jamdani,
Yeah.
why not do it for something which has men's style in it? Why not?
right? With that I mean, the market will become bigger.
Absolutely. It's a brilliant
Rather than
idea.
focus to females and only saris rather than.
I think men would wear it
Yep.
because
Well,
they're
I
also
think
committed to
They
it.
have what they call kurta. They call Punjabi in Bangladesh and kurta all over India.
yeah.
See, so if they produce, then
Why
that would
not?
be much better.
That'd be fantastic.
Yes.
I mean, if we can do...
Obviously not the trousers, but
No, just the top.
just the top.
That'll be fun. I think I saw some activities like that in Dhaka last time, but I wouldn't mind if we go further with it.
We haven't been able to touch on this book, Bengal to Britain, that was published in 2013, recreating historic fashions of the muslin trade. It was, I think, part of the project of a Stepney Community Trust.
Yes.
And I think some 12 persons were involved on that. Tell us something about that book itself, see, Bengal to Britain.
Bengal to Britain is a book about mostly the accounts of the 12 fashion recreators, the ones who recreated the dresses, and why we did it and why we chose our subjects. But it's got a very good introduction by Muhammad Ahmadullah, who talks about the presence of muslin in Britain. How did it come here? In what quantities? Who bought it? So that information is encapsulated
Recently
here.
or historically?
Historically, the arrival of muslin, because at some point it stopped.
They did try to produce muslin in Lancashire, isn't
They
it?
did, they tried, but it was a dismal failure. They stopped. Even they had to admit that they couldn't do it.
Because, you know, a particular kind of humid, warm atmosphere is needed, you see, which
It
could
is.
not be created back those days. Probably it can be, because then today in Kew Gardens you can see bananas and guavas and pomegranate and dates and passion fruits being grown. See?
You can, but see, muslin is more than it is. It's the humidity, the dampness of the moist morning, and the dampness of the evening. That's true, but muslin is also the environment, the quality of the water from the Shonagao rivers. It's the skin of the Boal March. It's all of that. It's not just the weaving and the temperatures. It's a hell of a lot of stuff that goes on to
By
create
the way,
this.
ball marsh is expensive, see, so
Ah.
I want
It's good, rather than waste the teeth of the fish, I think it's pretty great that the Bangladeshis used it to produce muslin.
Shall I go back to the Muslin Trust charter, see? Here you mentioned the developing a knowledge base about the history, design and applications of traditional textiles in Bangladesh through mutual beneficial educational relationships with the universities, cultural stakeholders and public. How would you do that in Britain of today?
It's a very staged program. We want to target colleges of fashions and textile because we don't want muslin jamdani to go off the agenda. We think students should be reminded of it and use it and demand it and then produce their fashions. We want also to run courses for people who would just be interested in this textiles, which is also important. There's a variety of ways of raising awareness and education. It could be in schools, it could be in colleges, it could be in talks. But as long as we go from this zero to further up, is the most important thing. Because it's also important because Bangladeshis are here. And people who live here need to understand where Bangladeshis come from. We're not just a poor community. We actually helped create this.
We have rich traditions.
We have we need to say exactly what those rich traditions are.
Very briefly, to create a community of designers in the West who could use jamdani in their designs, how would you target that?
Well, there are some designers already using jamdani, and what we need to do is to bring them together, support them, promote their work, increase the trade in jamdani, and perhaps expand it, because there may be some designers who are working by themselves. If they joined a collective to know that they're also using jamdanis, I think the industry would be better for it.
Rifat, thank you very much for being with us. It was very informative and very illuminating, and I'm sure that we'll have another occasion to talk about this and see how much progress has been made today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you, viewers, for being with us, and I hope that you have enjoyed the program as much as we have here. And same time, same channel, next week with another distinguished guest. Take care.